sleep deprived, and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. It's feisty as usual here. We carve out our little lane. If you go to any of those other radio stations, you're going to listen to NPR talk very quietly into the microphone. You go to some of those other conservative talk radio shows, and they will give you a monologue. But here, you're part of the conversation. Billy and I debate it. Today, we're talking oral arguments before the U.S. Supreme Court yesterday in Chiles v. Salazar on the conversion therapy bans. And we're going to talk with Alliance Defending Freedom coming up here. But some good questions. And Doug, you raised one of the best questions on this, because it's not just this. It's the entire progressive push that Colorado's been on for the last decade or so. How many cases have gone before the Supreme Court that Colorado has won? I don't know. I mean, Jack Phillips, Lori Smith, and I think this one, they're all going to lose. So that's 3. And I think it's a testimony to the failure of our lawmakers to think constitutionally. We warned them 6 years ago. I sat right across the table from some of these lawmakers and was like, this is not going to withstand constitutional muster. And, of course, 6 years later, here we are arguing the exact same things we warned them about. This is, from my perspective, exactly why Phil Weiser should not be in the governor's seat. Let's see. An hour on ice baths and cattle prods. Yeah, well, welcome to the state of Colorado. All right, we are going to talk with Alliance Defending Freedom coming up. They were the ones that made the arguments in the courtroom. Mallory Sleight, she's legal counsel and part of the Parental Rights Team at Alliance Defending Freedom, will join us to explore and explain their perspective on yesterday's case, where it's likely to go. Now, if you remember, I'll just give you a timeline here. Yesterday was just oral arguments. Then they're going to go vote, and then they will write their opinions, and you will not hear the actual decisions until the spring of 2026. But a lot of court watchers, based upon the questions that were asked, believe that it will likely be a 6-3 decision overturning this. And look, Colorado could go back and just say, hey, via the actual abusive practices that took place under conversion therapy, which again, I've never met anybody who did these, but if you were actually engaging in physically abusive aversion conditioning techniques, which is like sticking a gay person in an ice bath to try to make them straight, that stuff should be banned, ought to be banned, and could still be banned even if the current conversion therapy ban was overturned. We'll get to all of this and more, plus your phone calls and texts. Now is time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Hey, good Wednesday morning, 47 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 77 today. This portion of the news sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, former FBI Director James Comey has pleaded not guilty to 2 federal charges. Comey is charged with obstruction of justice and making false statements by the Justice Department.
My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
Dummy. You big dummy. You big dummy. You big dummy.
You big cold-blooded dummy. You big dummy.
He's accused of lying to the Senate Judiciary Committee about leaking information, of course, from his stupid Russia lie that he and Barry concocted in 2016. A trial date is set for January 5th.
Insiders fighting for insiders. More of
And day 8 of the shutdown.
Dana?
All right, Chad, thank you so much.
Well, let's see if we can get this queued up here. It is day 8.
House Speaker Mike Johnson is open to a special bill to pay air traffic controllers and the military, but that requires Johnson to recall the House. Johnson has vowed to keep the House on recess until Senate Democrats accept the GOP funding plan.
That's right. Fox News Channel set it to vote for the 6th time in government funding this morning. If you're flying to Nashville, by the way, or Dallas or Chicago, Albuquerque or Newark from DIA this morning, there may be delays due to the Democrats' shutdown. But once again, it may end this morning after the lawmakers vote. An arrest has reportedly been made in the Palisades fire investigation in California.
KNBC TV is reporting the arrest, citing multiple law enforcement sources. The person in custody has not been identified, and the charge or charges they are facing are unclear. The report indicates the suspect may be a young man connected with the fire in the Palisades Highlands area on New Year's Day. That fire reignited on January 7th. The United States Attorney is expected to formally announce the arrest at 9 a.m. I'm Daniel Martindale.
And according to disciplinary records obtained by Fox 31, former Denver police officer Kendall Albert responded to a domestic violence call on September 13th of 24. But then what happened afterward is cost him his job. He was fired after being accused of sending personal texts to the victim and downloading photos of her in swimwear to his department-issued phone. 4 weeks ago today, Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And you know what? I agree with General Mike Flynn.
In fact, if I were in government, I would say in a White House meeting, this is what you must do. Stop all this nonsense about we've caught our guy. There's just been too much. And what it does is it damages and it continues to eat away and erode the trust between the people of this country and the government. And that's the one thing that must be rebuilt. People want to trust our law enforcement. They want to trust our government. They want to trust Trump. They want to trust Cash Patel. I do. But this particular issue with Charlie Kirk was such a seminal event in the history of the United States of America, and it smells bad. It looks bad. You know, the old duck thing, right? If it looks like a duck and walks like a duck, then it's a duck. And so something about it is not right.
Yep, absolutely. A senior Hamas official says they have exchanged hostage and prisoner lists with Israel during their negotiations to end the war in Gaza. He says the lists contain names of prisoners and hostages who will be released if a deal is reached during the talks underway right now in Egypt. Taylor Swift is shutting down rumors that she'll quit music after marrying Travis Kelce. And I was thinking about this, since Kelce is not going to be available for the Super Bowl because the Chiefs will not advance that far this year. I was thinking they could get married live, have their wedding live on another network during Super Bowl halftime. And that would absolutely destroy Bad Bunny. Everyone would watch the marriage of Travis and what's her name, Taylor. And once again, I don't think the Chiefs will get there. So that's my idea right there. Avalanche at the Kings. They dropped the puck last night to start the new season.
Makar fakes it, walks in. Makar, saved by Kemper, score!
Wow, 4-1, the Avalanche win it. American League playoffs. Mariners beat the Tigers 8-4, and the Yankees still alive. They avoided elimination, getting by the Blue Jays 9-7. 46 in Parker right now, 45 in Arvada, 47 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue.
Boys are boys from the beginning. If you were born a boy, you stay a boy.
Blake Olson, News Talk. Whoa.
And we know Blake would rip your head off. I just have a feeling
Barney.
about Blake. He might just hit you unprovoked, but...
Yeah, Barney, I love you, man. 710 KNUS.
Your 710 5-day forecast. Going to be another mostly sunny day in the Denver metro. Temperatures warming to the middle and upper 70s. Clear tonight and mild mid-50s. Going to hit the low 80s tomorrow as we see daytime sunshine. By Thursday night, a few more clouds will move in. Lows are going to be in the mid-50s. Friday and Saturday, highs in the mid-70s. Friday night into the weekend could see a few light showers. 60 Sunday. Weather brought to you by L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, dependable service, call 720-851-1691 or visit them online at besteverhvac.com. Meteorologist Don Watzel in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's talk real quick. Guyries. My wife and I went to Guyries. They got locations all throughout the Denver metro area and got to meet with a professional designer that put together an incredible selection of options for us for Hunter Douglas custom blinds, shades, and shutters. Look, I'd never worked with a personal designer before. It wasn't outrageously expensive. My wife loved it because she got to check out and test all the different types of blinds and ask lots of questions. And then best of all, here's what happened. They came out to our house and did a personalized in-home consultation where they measured everything with lasers. They showcased the different types of colors for the blinds and shades, and we're thrilled. They're all remote control. It's amazing. I press a button. They all go up and down. I love it. I know you will as well. Get the same expert advice right in your own home. Maybe it's not Hunter Douglas custom blinds, shades, and shutters. Maybe it's paint. Maybe it's home decor. They do it all. Visit Guyries to schedule your in-home consultation. That's GUIRYS.com. GUIRYS.com. Go see the great people at Guyries. You'll be sure to thank me. All right, we're talking yesterday's big oral arguments before the U.S. Supreme Court. Chiles v. Salazar, Colorado, once again back at the U.S. Supreme Court because it cares so much about the Constitution and personal freedom. Yeah, right. It's all progressive agenda, and it's running right into that brick wall called the U.S. Constitution. And I think they're going to lose on this one again. To join us, to give us some insight is Mallory Sleight. She's legal counsel, part of the Parental Rights Team at Alliance Defending Freedom. Mallory, thank you for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Big day yesterday. I listened to the oral arguments. I didn't think the state made a very compelling speech or defense of what they believe. And I've been a part of this battle for 6 years now. And there's a lot of conflation that takes place. There's some really awful practices of conversion therapy that should be banned, especially if it's physically abusive. But you guys made an important distinction yesterday between physical abuse, even medicine, and speech. Why that important distinction?
Well, the Constitution protects speech, simply enough. And what our client, Kaylee Chiles, is doing is speech. She is a licensed counselor in Colorado that talks with her clients about many concerning issues that they have in their lives, but two of those are gender identity and sexual orientation. Kaylee sees her work as an outpouring of her Christian faith, and a lot of her clients share that faith and come to her because they want counseling aligned with their Christian faith. If a client comes to Kaylee and says, I'm struggling with my gender identity and I want counseling to feel comfortable in my own skin and in my own body, right now under Colorado's law, Kaylee is not allowed to give them that counseling that the client is requesting.
I thought that was a really important distinction, that this is essentially forced, compelled speech upon counselors and even patients. So if the patient, 17-year-old boy, says, look, I'm biologically a boy, but, transgenderism's popped up. I have some feelings. It's popular in culture. Can you give me some tips to realign my gender identity with being a biological boy? I want that. The state of Colorado prevents the counselor from doing that. Is that correct?
That is correct. The state of Colorado is going into the privacy of the counseling room and telling our client, Kaylee, what type of counseling she is allowed and not allowed to give, especially when the client is requesting that type of counseling. Struggling kids benefit from counseling to accept their bodies. They deserve better than having the state of Colorado telling them what they can and cannot request from their personal counselor.
That's Mallory Sleight. She's legal counsel and part of the Parental Rights Team for Alliance Defending Freedom. Now, the state made the argument that they have a compelling interest. Look, if you had a counselor out there that was encouraging people to, oh, you're suicidal, why don't you try that out? Dare somebody to be suicidal. Or if there's a doctor out there and somebody's struggling with cholesterol, and the doctor says, well, I think you should go eat a lot of Twinkies. Those would be bad guidance. And doesn't the state have a right to step in and protect the patient from what could be harmful guidance? What's your response to that?
But that's not what's happening in this actual case. And in this case, all we're talking about is speech that the client is requesting. And this is speech that is simply allowing a child to ask questions and have concerns about their biological sex. But if they want to realign with that biological sex, to become comfortable in their own bodies, they are not allowed to get that kind of counseling in the state of Colorado. So essentially what Colorado is doing is viewpoint discrimination. They are saying, you as a counselor and a client may have counseling for one viewpoint to transition your sex, but you are not allowed to have counseling for the opposite viewpoint, to become comfortable in your sex. So those other examples are truly just not happening in this case. And so in the facts of this case and in the facts of this law, there is no compelling interest that the state of Colorado can raise.
And I think, too, it's important to bring up the notion of disputed science in this, right? So no one's really disputing that eating a whole bunch of sugary desserts all the time is somehow going to be beneficial if you have high cholesterol, or that if you're suicidal, go dare people to be suicidal. Maybe they'll snap out of it. But in this case, the state argued, both sides argued that, half the country believes that conversion therapy bans are necessary because the practice of maybe getting somebody to align with their biological sex is harmful. The other half of the states don't. So is it right in the midst of disputed science around all this stuff to force a single state-sponsored perspective on everybody else, including the patients? Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, there are really a plethora of studies demonstrating that roughly 90% of kids who struggle with gender identity will naturally resolve their gender dysphoria. We have 27 states that already protect children from risky and dangerous procedures to alter their healthy bodies to make them into the opposite sex. A lot of European countries have restricted this as well. So a lot of the studies are really demonstrating that the best thing that can happen for kids who are struggling is to get counseling where they can explore their questions and where they can become comfortable in their own skin, like 90% of these kids are likely to. But the state of Colorado is removing that option from these children.
Mallory Sleight, legal counsel, Parental Rights Team, Alliance Defending Freedom. One of the questions that Bill brought up and was brought up yesterday was the notion of harm. Has the plaintiff, Chiles, actually been harmed? Has she lost her license? Is this the state saying at one point, well, we know it's written into the law, but we're choosing not to enforce it? So is there standing here in this case?
Well, yesterday, Colorado conceded in court that Kaylee does have a standing. And since this lawsuit has started, the state is now actively investigating Kaylee based on anonymous complaints, which really proves that the threat from the state against her is real and needs to be addressed now. The law says that she can have up to $5,000 fines for every single incident, and that she could be suspended from practice and have permanent revocation of her license.
That's Mallory Sleight, legal counsel, Parental Rights Team, Alliance Defending Freedom. Were those complaints based on her filing the lawsuit or based on treatment she was administering? Was that outlined inside of the case of the oral arguments?
No. And
do you think that's important? And do you think it's important? And the only reason I'm pointing it out is I'm looking for the causal relationship inside. If the threats and complaints start after the lawsuit, I think it's fair to critique the state and say, you're just going after this because people are filing and being trolls online, versus questions about possible therapy. I agree. The state can be absolutely and completely and totally stupid about this, but I think that's sort of important in the conversation.
Yeah, I see your point for sure, but the issue at the basis is that the state is now investigating Kaylee, and the kind of reason why the people made the complaints isn't particularly relevant, because the investigation itself is a violation of her constitutional rights, that she is being investigated for her speech. And, regardless of who you are or what side, you fall on this, I think we can all agree that we don't want states investigating people for their speech.
Yeah, and especially after filing a lawsuit. I can absolutely go with that one. Mallory Sleight from the Alliance Defending Freedom. Got a question. One of the things that I struggle with in this law, I think that is very poorly written, but one of the things I struggle with is, let's see how I can phrase this. I'm worried about the idea that the therapy for the child is not there to help them navigate their circumstances, but instead to get to a particular outcome desired by both the parents and the therapist. And what I mean by this is that inside of the case, it was outlined the therapist has very strong faith beliefs that she and I share, and that will change and shape how her therapy is going to go forward, and also has clients that share those same views. So what I'm curious about is really what the therapist is asking, that she needs the free speech to come to the conclusions that the parents and that she wants to, not necessarily helping the client navigate their specific circumstances. Your thoughts on that?
Well, Kaylee is never going to work with a client who is not there voluntarily. So if she has a child in her counseling room, and she's going to involve the whole family, obviously, because it is a minor. But if the child is saying something different than what the parents are saying, she is not going to force any type of counseling on a child that the child is not voluntarily wanting to receive. So a lot of clients come to Kaylee because they share her faith, and that includes a lot of children and minors who have Christian faith and want to become comfortable in their own body and in their own skin and align their beliefs with their faith. But if she has a child who, does not want to talk about gender identity, they're just simply going to talk about something else instead.
And yeah. I think what's unique too about the way we are in the state of Colorado is there's circumstances legally right now, and I fought these down at the state capitol too, where a kid can break with their parents and go get counseling and even begin transition processes as minors with no parental notification. So the state looks at a minor and says, oh, you want to change your gender? Don't tell your parents. Come on, have some counseling. In fact, we'll start even exploring hormone processes, unlimited counseling sessions, no parent involvement. But if you and your parents want your gender identity to match your biological sex, or you want your human sexuality and sexual desires to match your religious worldview, and you want tips on that, and your parents are involved, and the kid wants it, and the counselor is involved, in that particular case, no, you can't do it. It's wild to me. Mallory, thoughts on that?
That's exactly right. And the law allows counselors to encourage transition to the opposite sex. That a child can come in and the counselor can have their desired end goal in mind, that they think that transition is always the right answer, and they can encourage that without the state having any concerns or without the counselor violating any law. But Kaylee, if she comes in and has a child that is asking to become comfortable in their own skin and in their biological sex, Kaylee is not allowed to give them the messages and the counseling that they are asking for. That is a dangerous law.
That's Mallory Sleight, legal counsel for Parental Rights Team, Alliance Defending Freedom, talking about the case that was coming out of Colorado in front of the U.S. Supremes yesterday. I want to dial this into something a little more minutia, but something that I think is incredibly important to this case, and it's the idea of strict scrutiny. I was really pleased when this was brought up yesterday, and I want to have your opinions on why you feel lower courts did not apply strict scrutiny and whether or not we will get an overall ruling by the Supremes, or will the Supremes kick it back down to the lower courts and ask them to look at strict scrutiny? Now, just for lay people that are people, not lay people, just for the people like me that don't have a legal degree or anything like that, strict scrutiny basically is the courts operating under the premise that the law is invalid, and then there's a three-part step in order for them to justify whether or not the state, the federal, whatever it is, has made their case to make sure the law can pass. It's a really, really tough bar to overcome, but it seems very, very applicable in this. What were your feelings on strict scrutiny, on the arguments that were made, and do you think the Supremes will use that to kick it back down to the lower courts, or do you think they'll rule?
That's a great question. In terms of strict scrutiny, and just for your audience, when the state has, there's two different types of discrimination. There's content discrimination, which is where a state says, any type of speech in this content, like, for example, gender transition, is not allowed. Nobody in the state is allowed to counsel on gender transition. That would be content discrimination, which would automatically mean that strict scrutiny, that really high test, applies. But this case is even worse than that, because what the state has done here is viewpoint discrimination. So it's saying within this topic, this content of gender identity, one viewpoint encouraging transition is allowed, but the opposite viewpoint of encouraging realignment with biological sex is not allowed. So that is the worst type of speech discrimination that the state could have. And the court acknowledged that this was viewpoint discrimination. So if that's the case, there is absolutely no reason that strict scrutiny should not be applied. And I don't think that the state made a case that they are able to pass strict scrutiny. And so I think we will get strict scrutiny applied in this opinion. And I think it makes more sense for the court to go ahead and rule on it rather than remanding. And I think our argument yesterday really demonstrated that. But either way, I think we come out ahead on this.
That's Mallory Sleight. She's legal counsel, Parental Rights Team, Alliance Defending Freedom. Now, you've been very generous with your time. Just a few more questions, Mallory. If this is overturned, you know, CNN, for instance, running the headline that this discredited practice will now be allowed again if this is overturned. I see this as the speech components of the conversion therapy bans would be overturned, but for instance, the actual practice of what I would consider abusing people, this is what we dealt with down at the state capitol when the law was first passed. What's called physically abusive, aversive conditioning techniques. So if you're actually physically harming people to try to change their gender identity or their sexual desires, that could still be banned. It's just the speech component, particularly as it relates to the state forcing, you know, its viewpoint on all the counselors. That's what would be addressed here. That's my reading of this. Your thoughts?
I think it's actually even more narrow than that. really all we are saying is that the state cannot control voluntary counseling conversations. So we are only talking about what our client, Kaylee Chiles, does. And that is where you have a client that comes in where the clients themselves and the family are aligned that they want counseling to help the child become comfortable in his or her own biological sex. In that circumstance, we believe, and the Constitution demands, that Kaylee should be allowed to speak those messages that her client and the client's family are requesting. That is an incredibly narrow issue that we are discussing, and one that I really think most people would agree and align on.
Mallory Sleight, legal counsel. She's part of the Parental Rights Team, Alliance Defending Freedom. Thank you so much for your time. In many ways, I apologize that Colorado continues to send cases up to the Supreme Court. It's like they don't learn. They're just like, whatever, we'll do whatever we want. We'll get 5 years out of it, and then, of course, the Supremes will overturn it. But thank God we've got great people like Alliance Defending Freedom out there setting the record straight, getting this thing worked out, most importantly, defending our constitutional rights. Go to adflegal.org, adflegal.org. Support the good people at Alliance Defending Freedom. Mallory, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me on.
All right, feel free to join the conversation. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us at the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. All right, you guys looking for a good place to eat lunch today? Especially with all the weather that's changing. It's hot one day, it's cold the next. How about a good baked potato? Go check out my friends at the Black Eyed Pea of Colorado, locally owned and run by Steve and Michelle. I love this restaurant. They got 8 locations, so there's sure to be one near you. This week, make it a point to take your family out to eat at the Black Eyed Pea restaurant. It's one that all 3 generations love. Grandparents get the comfort food. You get nice, healthy food. The kids get something that they love. It's all locally sourced. It's Maha. It tastes delicious, and it's affordable. All right, check out their stuffed spuds, which are their feature on the fall menu right now. Sweet pork spud, which is a sweet potato topped with pulled pork, drizzled with barbecue sauce, cheddar, Monterey Jack cheese, and green onions. They have chopped steak spud, a south of the border spud, a cheeseburger spud, a pot roast stuffed spud, and more. See their menu at blackeyedpeacolorado.com. For your dinner party, rehearsal dinner, wedding reception, or company event, make it a success with Black Eyed Pea Catering. And Black Eyed Pea gift cards are always perfect for your spouse, birthday favors, holiday presents, or as a thank you to someone special. Get them a gift card. I love this restaurant. I know you will too. Keep it in Colorado. Make it Maha. Keep it affordable. Your whole family will love it. The Black Eyed Pea near you. We'll continue. We got Pete Boyles coming up. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Live in studio with us because he figured I'm going to be here Thursday and Friday. Why not come in Wednesday as well?
Saturday.
Right, and Saturday. the great Peter Boyles. Hey, Pete.
Hi. Good morning.
Thanks for covering for Bill and I.
I've been listening to
Yeah,
fellas.
thank you.
Billy's going home. When are you leaving?
Oh, tomorrow. But yeah, we'll talk about that later when I get
Okay,
back. Yeah, and stuff. Yes, got a little bit of a trip planned, but nothing big. Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
And then while he's out, we're going to have a group of progressives co-hosting with us. So I joked, everyone's going to love having Bill back. He's going to seem like a moderate after we bring in Ted Trimpa and Deep Singh Badesha and Patty Calhoun and Vic Vela and CityCast Denver, which they're crushing it on social media these days.
Well, you
so
and I share
it'll be fun.
Vic as friends.
Yeah.
And Ted Trimpa is probably one of the smartest people I've ever known in my life.
Unfortunately, yes.
And
I went out to lunch with him, very first time I ever met him, and he's so accessible, right? Like, I worked for Rick Santorum. He is the architect of the Blue Takeover,
Absolutely.
the LGBTQ rise of Jared Polis and Tim Gill and all that. And he's happy to go out to lunch, and we have a great... And I'm just sitting there the whole time going, if we could only have you on our side.
Well, I got him a shirt in Sturgis. And I haven't seen him because he's been traveling. So I brought the shirt in, gave it to Kelly, and I said, Kelly, when Ted's here on Monday with you, I said, give him the shirt. Nice. And it's one of those horrible biker shirts from Sturgis. That's really good of you to do that, to put everybody on like that.
It'll be fun.
I love doing it.
The show has really developed a reputation. I heard it from another progressive who said this is a fair place to come.
Yeah.
Like, it'll be intense. We're gonna, but it's not hateful, and so when we have all these folks on Monday, expect the debate to get fierce, but done in a very respectful way.
Well, his husband is a conservative producer at Fox News in New York, so that's a great family. Have Thanksgiving.
Arash, yeah, they're a lot of fun.
Had Thanksgiving with them. I mean, it's it's wonderful. But
what are you going to be covering tomorrow and Friday?
I want to talk about what you guys are talking about today, and I lead with a question all the time: when was your choice day? I mean, there's this idea somehow that these are folks who are attempting to alter a person's sexual desires and thoughts, and I thought again and again and again, I never had a choice. Did you have one?
No, but I think it's you want to get into a bit of a discussion here. So as somebody who is a Christian and follows the teachings of the Bible, the choice is how you choose to live out your sexual activity. So it doesn't matter what your desires are. So if your desires for men or if your desires for 100 women, you live out your human sexuality in the confines of marriage between one man and one woman.
You're missing my question. When was your choice?
Yeah.
Did you have one?
I disagree with the premise.
Well, because I'm told all the time when I read the literature that homosexuality is a choice.
But so is if I choose to cheat on my wife.
Totally different.
No, they're human activity. They're sexual activities.
Totally different. No, Jeffy. Billy, because I remember, who was the first girl you ever kissed?
I don't remember.
Mine was Judy Bellin.
Mine, I don't remember her last name, but her name was Tanya. But I can tell you what colored coat she was wearing at the time. It was a blue one and had a little white furry collar on it.
I'll go you one better. I was playing baseball with the older guys, and there was a girl who came around the ball field, and guys kissed her. And her name was Judy Bellin. And Terry Martin's playing third base. I didn't want to kiss Terry. I wanted to kiss Judy Bellin. My entire life changed that evening. And so if it's a choice, or if this kind of therapy works, could they make you gay, or could they make me gay, or could they take straight Billy, and say, Billy, we're going to turn you into a gay guy?
Yeah.
You can't do it.
I mean, I know people that lived homosexual lifestyles that are now in heterosexual marriages.
And they always get caught in gay bars in D.C. when they're... No, come on. You know they do.
No, they're fine people. They're fine.
I'm not going to say they're not fine people.
But I mean, they live committed lives to their spouse. I don't think desire has as much to do with it as action does.
Well, I mean, but why should you take the most wonderful thing in your life and then put it in the closet and not use it? I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me either. Maybe I'm too much of a hedonist, but I mean, if I desired men, I'd go out with men. I don't.
But so much of your life is restricting your desires. You restrict your desires on other things.
No, alcohol is a disease. Being gay is not a disease.
I know, but I'm not saying it is a disease.
No, I know
I'm saying that we live our lives restricting our desires all the time. Yet we come to sexuality and we're like, if you restrict that desire, you're somehow denying your true self.
Is there a difference between sexual orientation and restricting sexual activity when we're talking about desire? I think when we're talking about restricting desire, that's activity, not orientation.
Right.
Well, what do I restrict? That isn't. I mean, I don't think two gay guys and you're going to have at least one half of one of the finest marriages I know sitting in the studio with you.
Right.
Should he restrict that?
Yes.
Wow.
But
what if he said that about you?
That's what the Bible teaches, though. That's not super controversial. It's said that for 2,000 years. So,
but what if he doesn't accept that? I mean,
right, and that's a debate. But you asked me my opinion on it. Should he restrict it? Of course, because that's what the Bible teaches. Should I restrict my sexual desires? Absolutely, 100%. I shouldn't engage in pornographic activity. I shouldn't sleep around with other people. That's a restriction of my desires, isn't it?
Well, that whether sleeping with other women, that you're discredited. That has nothing to do with two men sleeping together. I mean, if you break your vows to your wife, who's a wonderful woman, that's on you.
But the issue being, and I think you're going to have fun tomorrow with this because we're running out of time. But the issue being, should you restrict your sexual desires? Yes, 100%.
There comes a time in your life as no matter what, you're going to restrict them.
That's true.
Welcome to the debate show, the Jeff, Bill, and Pete show. So you'll be in tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you'll be covering this.
Yeah.
And all the latest headlines, and then Saturday
I got
right?
Good Friday show. I got a pretty good show tomorrow. And thanks, guys. And then I get to do Saturday. So there we go.
Awesome. Thank you. Peter Boyles filling in for Jeff and Bill tomorrow, and then Friday as well. And then we'll be back Monday, or I'll be back with progressive co-hosts. Let's talk advanced hair restoration. Guys, if you're losing your hair, you need a simple solution that works. You want the best. Modern technology, top-rated physicians, something that's guaranteed to work. Guys, you need Dr. Tanya Pauls and her team at Advanced Hair. They've completely redefined hair restoration from the experience itself to their unmatched results. You got a receding hairline, bald spot, or thinning hair? Address them all with Advanced Hair's simple one-day treatment in a calm, relaxed environment with the most experienced professionals. Advanced Hair has performed tens of thousands of these breakthrough treatments, and get this, your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day. No one in Denver can offer anything like the Advanced FUE found at Advanced Hair, and I highly recommend their team. It starts with your free consultation. Call 720-459-HAIR, 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you'll get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Refine your hairline with the team that's redefined hair restoration. 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. Advancedhair.com. We'll wrap up here. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show, 8422. Pete's so excited about getting back into the morning saddle. People happy to have him listen or fill in for us. So
yeah,
they're excited to listen to Pete. He'll bring those I mean, we spent 4 minutes together and we jumped right into the controversy.
Of course. It's going to be fun.
He asked those questions. He asked the perfect question. It just goes like right at it.
Oh, yeah, he does. He does. He's so good at that. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm sure the audience is going to enjoy a little bit of a changeover, getting back to the, one of the best that has ever sat behind a microphone, Peter Boyles. And it's crazy that he's filling in for us. Okay, I'm just it's really weird. I was producer for him several different times. And, to now have him filling in on the show that's my name on it's really weird. Yeah, that's strange. Yep,
Isn't that fun?
Yeah, that
It'd
is
be
cool.
a ton of fun.
That's kind of cool.
Billy and I will be out tomorrow, but don't worry, I'll be back Monday. Bill will be back October 20th. Just taking some time. We got some things coming up, but we'll be right back. And as always, the phone lines are open for you. So whether it's Pete, me, a fill-in co-host, you're always invited to be a part of the conversation. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is KNUS.